Throughout history, certain animals have crossed the line from occasional human attacks to becoming dedicated man-eaters, predators that specifically hunt humans as their preferred prey. These creatures have terrorized communities, halted construction projects, and become legends that still send chills down our spines today. From the dense jungles of India to the African savannas, these are the 10 deadliest man-eaters to ever exist. Starting our list is one of the most unusual man-eaters in history. Unlike most bears that occasionally attack humans, the sloth bear of Mysore in southern India developed a taste for human flesh that shocked even experienced hunters. Sloth bears typically feed on termites, fruits, and honey. They're not natural predators of humans. But in 1957, something changed this particular bear forever. Some legends claim it was a male bear whose female companion had been taken by villagers, driving him to revenge. Others say it was a female whose cubs had been killed by humans. The most likely explanation is that the bear had been injured by humans and became abnormally aggressive as a result. What made this bear particularly terrifying was its method of attack. Like most sloth bears, it would use its massive claws to rip off its victim's face, leaving survivors completely disfigured. But unlike normal sloth bear attacks, this one began consuming its victims, something extremely unusual for the species. The bear's reign of terror continued until famed big game hunter Kenneth Anderson finally tracked it down. It took 3 separate hunting expeditions before the elusive beast was finally brought down, ending months of fear in the Mysore region. Moving from India to the American South, we encounter one of the most mysterious man-eaters in history. Two-toed Tom was a massive American alligator that allegedly terrorized the swamps along the Alabama-Florida border for potentially 6 decades. This wasn't just any alligator. Witnesses described a beast measuring 14 feet long, missing all but 2 toes on his left foot from what was believed to be an old steel trap. The distinctive tracks he left in the mud made him instantly recognizable to locals, who came to believe he wasn't a normal gator at all, but a demon sent from hell. Tom's preferred hunting ground was along riverbanks where women would wash clothes. Multiple women disappeared while doing laundry, snatched by the massive reptile. But Tom wasn't content with just human prey. He also devastated local livestock, taking cows, mules, and anything else that came near the water's edge. The most chilling aspect of Two-Toed Tom's legend is its duration. One farmer, obsessed with killing the beast, chased him for 20 years unsuccessfully. In desperation, he threw 15 dynamite-filled buckets into Tom's pond. The explosion killed everything in the water, except Tom. Moments later, horrific screams came from a nearby pond, and the farmer found his own daughter's half-eaten remains on the shore. What makes Tom's story even more incredible is that sightings of a massive 2-toed alligator continued into the 1980s, suggesting this legendary man-eater lived for over 60 years. Multiple hunting expeditions were organized, but Two-Toed Tom was never captured. In the 18th century France, a creature terrorized the former province of Gévaudan that defied all explanation. For 3 years, this mysterious beast specifically targeted humans while ignoring livestock, behavior that was completely unprecedented. Witnesses described something larger than a normal wolf, with reddish fur, an unbearable smell, and teeth bigger than any known predator in the region. The creature's first victim was a young girl in June 1764, but this was just the beginning of a reign of terror that would claim over 100 lives. What made the Beast of Gévaudan so terrifying wasn't just its kill count, but its apparent intelligence and preference for human flesh. It would specifically stalk people while leaving cattle and sheep untouched. The attacks were so frequent and brutal that many believed the creature was a demon sent as divine punishment, while others thought it was a loup-garou, a werewolf. Finally, in 1767, local hunter Jean Chastel managed to kill the beast. Legend claims he used a silver bullet, though this is likely myth. When they opened the creature's stomach, they found the remains of its most recent human victims, confirming its identity as the dreaded man-eater. To this day, experts debate what the Beast of Gévaudan actually was. While many believe it was an unusually large wolf, others theorize it might have been an escaped hyena from a traveling menagerie, which would explain its size, smell, and formidable teeth. Our next entry takes us to the waters off New Jersey in 1916, where a series of shark attacks would change how Americans viewed the ocean forever. This was during a time when scientists claimed sharks were harmless to humans, a belief that was about to be shattered in the most violent way possible. The first victim was Charles Van Sant, a young man swimming in shallow water with his dog. Multiple witnesses, including his family, watched in horror as the shark attacked. A lifeguard rushed to help, but the shark seemed to follow him toward shore, its tenacity unlike anything previously documented. Van Sant's femoral arteries were severed, and he bled to death before reaching the hospital. 5 days later, Charles Bruder was swimming offshore when witnesses saw what they initially thought was a red canoe capsizing. In reality, it was a massive pool of Bruder's blood. The shark had bitten off both his legs. In the remote village of Sankebetsu, Hokkaido, Japan, winter 1915 brought unprecedented terror. A massive brown bear named Kessagake had been feeding on the village's corn harvest. When villagers shot and wounded the bear, they thought their troubles were over. They were tragically wrong. Kessagake was enormous, nearly 10 feet tall and over 800 pounds. The bullet wounds didn't drive him away. Instead, they transformed him into a man-killer, consumed by rage and pain. On December 9th, Kessagake returned with vengeance. He broke into the Ota family home where a woman was caring for her baby alone. The bear killed the infant first, then attacked the woman. Despite her desperate defense, throwing firewood at the massive predator, Kessagake dragged her into the forest. Rescuers later found her partially eaten body buried in snow. 30 armed men tracked and wounded Kessagake again, but he escaped. While they hunted him, Kessagake doubled back and attacked the undefended Miyoki family home. The returning guards discovered a nightmarish scene. 2 children and a pregnant woman dead, all 3 including her unborn child. In just 2 days, Kessagake killed 6 people, creating such terror that guards abandoned their posts. The village faced total abandonment when a famous bear hunter finally agreed to help. On December 14th, he tracked down and killed the massive predator. Human remains in Kessagake's stomach confirmed survivors' worst fears. The Sankebetsu incident remains Japan's worst animal attack in history. The village was eventually abandoned entirely, becoming a ghost town, testament to the horror one enraged bear could inflict. In 1898, British railway construction across Kenya's Tsavo River ground to a halt due to 2 notorious predators. Massive, maneless lions who developed an insatiable appetite for human flesh. The Tsavo man-eaters measured over 10 feet long and exhibited unprecedented behavior. Initially snatching workers from tents at night, they grew so bold they would kill and eat victims just yards from sleeping quarters. Workers believed these weren't ordinary lions, but demons or ancient spirits trying to drive out the British invaders. They earned the nicknames the Ghost and the Darkness for their phantom-like abilities. Hundreds of workers fled. The crucial railway project shut down completely, as no one wanted to risk becoming the next meal for these supernatural-seeming predators. Chief Engineer John Henry Patterson took it upon himself to hunt them down. After nearly costing him his life multiple times, he killed the first lion in December 1898, then the second 2 weeks later, ending 9 months of terror. Patterson discovered their lair, a cave containing victim remains, clothing, and personal items. Recent analysis suggests they killed far more than they consumed, characteristic of true man-eaters who kill beyond hunger. Today, you can see their stuffed remains at Chicago's Field Museum. The leopard may be the smallest of the big cats, but don't let that fool you. They've been hunting human ancestors for over 3 million years, as evidenced by leopard bite marks found on ancient hominid fossils. and no leopard was more deadly than the Panar man-eater of northern India. This male leopard terrorized the Kumaon region during the early 20th century, becoming the second most prolific man-eater in recorded history. Operating primarily in the Panar province, this spotted killer claimed over 400 human lives with a cunning and persistence that made him legendary among both victims and hunters. Like many man-eaters, the Panar leopard's killing spree began with an injury. A hunter's bullet had wounded the cat, leaving him unable to hunt his natural prey effectively. Faced with starvation, the leopard made the fateful decision to target the easier prey walking upright on two legs. What made leopards particularly terrifying as man-eaters was their combination of stealth, agility, and intelligence. Hunters considered them far more cunning than lions or tigers. One hunter famously said, "If the leopard was the size of a lion, it would be 10 times more dangerous." The Panar leopard's reign of terror continued for years, with the death toll mounting relentlessly. Villages lived in constant fear, never knowing when the spotted shadow would strike next. Finally, the legendary hunter Jim Corbett, who would later become one of India's greatest conservation advocates, took on the challenge of hunting down this killer. In 1910, Corbett successfully tracked and killed the Panar leopard, ending one of the most devastating man-eating episodes in history. But this leopard wasn't alone in his deadly habits. Other leopards like the Kahani man-eater killed over 200 people, and the Rudraprayag man-eater stalked and killed 125 Hindu pilgrims before also falling to Corbett's rifle. Not all man-eaters work alone. In 1932, near the town of Njombe in Tanzania, an entire pride of lions decided that human flesh was their preferred meal. What followed was the worst lion attack in recorded history, and one of the most devastating animal attacks ever documented. This wasn't a case of opportunistic hunting. This was systematic predation on an unprecedented scale. Local legend claimed the lions were controlled by a witch doctor named Matamula Mangera, who had been deposed from his position and sent the pride on a revenge rampage against his own people. The psychological terror was as devastating as the physical attacks. The tribespeople were so terrified that they wouldn't even speak of the lions, believing that merely mentioning them would cause the pride to appear. They begged their chief to restore the witch doctor to his position, but he refused. The lions showed no fear of humans whatsoever. They would attack during the day, in groups, systematically hunting people like any other prey animal. Over the course of their killing spree, they claimed between 1,500 and 2,000 human lives. Numbers so staggering, they're almost incomprehensible. The situation became so dire that renowned hunter George Rushby was called in to deal with the crisis. It took all of his skill and experience to track down and kill 15 members of the pride. Only then did the remaining lions finally abandon the area, ending the nightmare. Interestingly, the locals were convinced the lions left not because of Rushby's intervention, but because the tribal chief had finally agreed to restore Matamula Mangera to his position as witch doctor. Whether there was any truth to the supernatural elements or not, the Njombe pride remains the deadliest coordinated animal attack on humans in recorded history. High in the Himalayas, near the border between Nepal and India, a single Bengal tigress would become the most prolific individual man-eater in human history. The Champawat tiger's 7-year reign of terror would claim 436 confirmed human lives and change entire regions forever. It all began with a hunter's bullet. The tigress had been shot but not killed, and the bullet shattered 2 of her canine teeth. In constant pain and unable to hunt her natural prey effectively, she made the transition that would make her legendary. She became Adam Kaur, a man-eater. Starting in Nepal, the tigress quickly racked up 200 human kills. Her methods were so effective and her cunning so advanced that the Nepalese government took the unprecedented step of deploying the national army against a single animal. But even the army couldn't catch her. The tigress simply crossed the border into India, specifically the Champawat region, where she continued her deadly work. With each kill, she grew bolder and more confident. Eventually, she began attacking in broad daylight, prowling around villages without fear. The psychological impact was devastating. Men wouldn't leave their homes to work because they could hear her roaring in the forest, waiting for them. Entire communities lived in constant terror, prisoners in their own villages. Once again, it was Jim Corbett who would end the nightmare. In 1911, he tracked the tigress by following a gruesome trail of blood and body parts from her latest victim, a teenage girl. Even Corbett, experienced in hunting dangerous animals, was horrified by the carnage he discovered. When Corbett finally killed the Champawat tiger, the local people were so grateful they made him a sadhu. The tigress had killed more people than most serial killers, earning her the distinction of being the deadliest individual man-eater in human history. At number 1 is the only man-eater still alive and actively hunting today. In war-torn Burundi lives a monster that has become legend and nightmare. A 20-foot-long, 1-ton Nile crocodile known as Gustave. Gustave is the largest Nile crocodile alive and Africa's biggest individual predator. For over 4 decades, he has terrorized Burundi's people, claiming an estimated 300-plus lives with no signs of slowing down. What sets Gustave apart is his apparent killing philosophy. Locals say he kills for pleasure, not hunger. He'll kill multiple people in one attack, then disappear for months or years before resurging elsewhere. His appetite is legendary. Rumors say he once killed and devoured an adult hippopotamus, something even crocodiles typically avoid. His massive body bears scars from countless assassination attempts, knife wounds, spear marks, and bullet scars telling the story of his battles with humans. French naturalist Patrice Fay spent years trying to capture him alive, building an enormous underwater trap. When Gustave appeared, he simply swam around the cage as if mocking his captors. At 60-plus years old, multiple hunting parties, soldiers, and professional hunters have failed to kill this prehistoric monster. A dark spot on his head marks a bullet wound that should have ended his reign, but only made him more cautious. Unlike historical man-eaters eventually killed, Gustave continues adding to his victim count. He's still out there in Burundi's murky waters, waiting for his next victim.